There's a lot of tragedies that happen in boxing. Death, injury, injustice, and many more. But one of the biggest tragedies, not just in boxing, but in the real world, is wasted or at least somewhat wasted talent. Many boxers have failed to live up to their potential, and one of the most recent examples is Cincinnati, Ohio's Adrien Broner. He had it all, but certain behavior traits and personal shortcomings costed him a true legacy. Adrien Broner was born on July 28, 1989 in Cincinnati, Ohio. He had a rough childhood and lived his early life in a poor neighborhood. At 6 years old, he discovered boxing and was instantly hooked. Broner was a very successful amateur, accumulating an impressive 319 record. That's quite good for world standards and incredible for American amateur standards. Broner made his professional debut on May 31st against Alante Davis. Broner obliterated him, knocking him out in 32 seconds. About a year into his career, Broner had built up a record of 8 wins, 0 losses, and 0 draws with 6 knockouts, before being truly tested for the first time. He fought a man named Fernando Quintero. Quintero was 7-0, and he gave Broner fits. It went the full 8 rounds, with Broner struggling to build momentum throughout. After 8 rounds, many felt Quintero deserved the victory. However, the judges didn't see it that way, giving Broner the majority decision win. This little hiccup in Broner's career motivated him, causing him to stop his next 10 opponents. Floyd Mayweather developed a relationship with Broner, representing him and hyping him up as a future talent. On March 5, 2011, Broner faced his first known test, taking on experienced veteran Daniel Ponce de Leon. De Leon was 41-2, and he was a respected contender in the division. Broner didn't rise to the occasion this night, getting drastically outworked and outfought by De Leon throughout the fight. Broner did land the heavier and crisper shots and did make it competitive, but didn't change how much he was outworked according to most fans, and didn't win him the fight according to most fans. The judges once again gave Broner the decision, giving the unanimous decision victory. Once again, Broner used his fight as fuel for his fire, brutally battering Jason Litzau in 1 round in his next fight. 5 months later, Broner fought for his first world title, fighting for the vacant WBO World Super Featherweight title, taking on Argentinian fighter Vicente Rodriguez. Broner was the favorite heading into this fight, and he proved the fans correct, making a statement and destroying Rodriguez in 3 rounds. Broner made his first title defense 3 months later, taking on undefeated Eloy Perez. Perez was game and showed a desire to win, but Broner showed him that there were levels, and he demolished Perez in 4 rounds. 5 months later, Broner took on respected gatekeeper Vicente Escobedo. It seemed like your traditional build-up for an Adrien Broner fight, but Broner showed an early red flag as a fighter. In the weigh-in for the fight, Broner came in at a whopping 3.5 pounds overweight. Escobedo and his team were disgusted, but they didn't pull out and decided to go ahead with the fight. That was a mistake on their end. Broner picked apart and heavily bloodied up Escobedo, all while showboating and clowning on the overmatched fighter. After 4.5 rounds of dominance, Escobedo's corner had enough and threw in the towel. Missing weight, especially by 3.5 pounds, proved that Broner had to move up. 4 months after the Escobedo fight, he made his lightweight debut, taking on WBC champion Antonio DeMarco. DeMarco was coming off an exceptional performance, blowing out John Molina in 1 round, and was by far expected to be Broner's biggest challenge. Broner completely rose to the occasion, picking apart and battering DeMarco throughout the fight. He was hitting DeMarco nearly at will, landing more than 50% of his shots thrown. It was a schooling of high proportions, and after pounding DeMarco with a few more big shots, DeMarco took a knee in the 8th round, and the ref waved off the bout, officially making Broner a 2-weight world champion. This is still widely considered Adrien Broner's best performance of his career. Broner would make his first title defense 3 months later, taking on Welsh contender Gavin Rees. Rees was no pushover, and throughout the fight he gave it his all against Broner, trading big shots in the pocket and hitting Broner with a large amount of power shots. However, the younger, stronger, and bigger Broner adjusted and stopped Rees in the 5th round. Broner throughout his career was pursuing a fight with Scottish champion Ricky Burns. After failing to make the fight happen, and with Broner having issues making weight, he decided to move up in weight, but not just to junior welterweight, but all the way up to welterweight. This may have been a mistake in the long run. In Broner's welterweight debut, he took on a fan-favorite veteran, Paulie Malignaggi. Neither fighter liked each other, and fans were looking forward to this fight, and it lived up to the build-up. Malignaggi surprised people, outworking Broner and giving him issues early in the bout. None of his shots were phasing Broner, but he was racking up points and racking up rounds. As the fight played out, Broner was slowly adjusting to Malignaggi, landing the heavier shots and rocking Malignaggi on occasion. It was a back-and-forth fight till the end, with fans split on the result. As we go to the score totals, Judge Glenn Feldman scores the fight 115-113 Malignaggi. Judge Tom Miller scores the fight 115-113 Broner, and Judge Tom Schreck scores the fight 117-111 for your winner by split decision, Adrien the Problem Broner. In a post-fight interview, Broner had one of his most iconic career moments, claiming that he took Paulie's belt and his girl. 6 months later, Broner took on Argentinian Marcos Maidana. Maidana was considered an entertaining but virtually one-dimensional power puncher prior to this bout, but fans didn't realize how good of a fit he was with his new trainer, Roberto Garcia. Broner was a considerable favorite heading into this fight. Broner's antics were on full display prior to this bout, barraging Maidana with an unprecedented amount of insults and disrespect prior to their fight. It's fight night. All of the talk, all of the antics, now it was time to settle it. Round 1 is a dominant round for Maidana, pushing Broner back, landing jabs to the body, getting the fight on the inside, and forcing Broner onto the ropes. In round 2, the boxing world was put on a roller coaster. Maidana, after jabbing to the body consistently, feinted to the body and hit Broner with a dynamite left hook. Broner got up but was badly hurt. After getting pummeled for the rest of the round, Broner regrouped. The next few rounds were relatively competitive, with both fighters having moderate levels of success. But in round 8, Maidana reclaimed the momentum that he was losing, dropping Broner once again. This knockout, or knockdown, wasn't as heavy, but it was still a clear-cut knockdown that nearly put Broner away. Later in the round, Maidana intentionally headbutted Broner while his hands were trapped by Broner's arms, and the referee, Lawrence Cole, deducted 1 point from Maidana. Maidana outworked Broner from rounds 9 to 11, solidifying his lead on the cards. Broner ended the fight strong in round 12, but it was too little, too late. The scorecards are red, and Maidana has pulled off the upset. Broner left the ring right after the decision was announced, skipping the post-fight interview. Broner's first loss was hard. Fans were mocking him and claimed that he had it coming. It was a tough period of time, but Broner didn't take much time off, returning 4 months later, taking on young Carlos Molina. Molina was coming off a dominant 10th-round corner stoppage defeat to Amir Khan in his previous bout. This was expected to be a nice rebound fight for Broner, and it was. He outclassed and outboxed Molina to a wide, unanimous decision victory. Broner would take on 23-year-old Emmanuel Taylor in his next fight. Taylor was on a mission, and he attempted to follow Maidana's blueprint of outdogging and outworking Broner. He was winning the fight early on. Broner was struggling to evade Taylor's early work, but similarly to the Malignaggi fight, Broner adjusted and started to pick apart Taylor. The fight was quite close after 11 rounds, with the fans not convinced in Broner's performance. Broner dug deep and was able to drop Taylor with a beautiful uppercut in the closing seconds of the fight. This sealed the deal for Broner, with Adrien winning a competitive, unanimous decision. Premier Boxing Champions was a new, up-and-coming commodity in boxing, and it made its debut on March 7, 2015. They stacked the card, and as big of a commodity Broner is, they put him on the co-main event. He took on exciting and dangerous John Molina. Broner completely neutralized the heavy-hitting Molina, outclassing him and beating him in close to every department, winning by unanimous decision. This is Broner's most underrated career performance. After a few tune-up fights, it was time for Broner to fight another elite opponent. On June 20th, 2015, Broner took on former IBF welterweight champion and top 5 welterweight Shawn Porter. These two were considered friends prior and were considered rivals before their fight. The fight was fought at a 144 catchweight, giving Broner an early edge prior to the fight, as Porter had to cut weight while Broner had to cut less weight. This edge didn't save him. In a lackluster fight, neither fighter did too much, but Porter did more, outworking Broner and making AB feel uncomfortable throughout the fight. Broner was deducted a point in round 11, but made up for it, hitting Porter for a beautiful pitch-perfect hook in round 12 that dropped Porter, who's considered by many to have a top-notch chin, showing that Broner still had some power left. Porter wasn't badly hurt and survived the round, and he was crowned the winner by unanimous decision victory, giving Broner his second professional loss. 3 months later, Broner moved down to 140, taking on Russian fighter Khabib Alikverdiev for a vacant title. Broner and Alikverdiev were coming off of losses, and Alikverdiev was coming off an 18-month layoff. Broner landed consistently and at will throughout the fight. It was pretty routine and dominant win for Broner. After 11 rounds of dominance, referee Harvey Dock waved out the fight in the 12th, prematurely according to most fans watching. Broner's the victor and has made history as being the quickest 4-weight champion in boxing history. 6 months later, Broner was slated to defend his WBA title against TMT fighter Ashley Teofane. Broner missed weight by half a pound and was stripped of his title. The fight proceeded. It was a competitive fight with Teofane's work rate causing issues for Broner, with Broner's size, strength, and power being the difference. Broner hurt Teofane with a mixture of body shots and low blows in round 9 before the referee jumped in. 6 months after Broner's victory against Teofane, outside of the ring behavior started to truly affect Broner, not just as a fighter, but his personal life as well. Fans were concerned after seeing Broner post cryptic and suicidal messages on his Instagram account. Days later, Broner was charged with a misdemeanor for battery after allegedly choking a waitress in a nightclub in Las Vegas. After some time out of the ring, Broner returned to take on dangerous gatekeeper Adrien Granados. This fight was all action, both fighters landing on each other consistently throughout the 10 rounds, with Granados outworking Broner but getting hit by the much larger shots. Many were split on who deserved the victory, but the judges gave Broner the victory by split decision. After the victory, Broner told all the fans watching him live in Cincinnati and all the fans watching at home that he would start taking his career more seriously. 2 months after his victory against Granados, Broner was arrested on a warrant surrounding from him failing to appear in court from a previous arrest 3 years earlier. 3 months later, Broner took on a pound-for-pound level fighter, 36-0 Mikey Garcia. Garcia showed that he was a level above Broner, beating him up and outclassing Broner to a unanimous decision victory. 4 months later, Broner got himself in trouble once again. Adrien was being instigated and bothered by a fan, and after getting fed up, Broner proceeded to knock out that fan. 5 months later, Broner was put into county jail for a sexual battery charge, being released via bail. On April 21, 2018, Broner took on ex-WBO champion Jesse Vargas. The fight was exhilarating, being a true back-and-forth battle. Neither fighter lost his fight metaphorically, and neither fighter ended up losing, with the fight being ruled a draw. This was one of Broner's most entertaining fights and brought positive attention back to Broner's name. Months later, Broner was offered the opportunity of a lifetime, being offered a match against all-time great Manny Pacquiao. Broner agreed and the fight was set for January 19th. Broner was doing a very good job building up the fight and sparking the fans' curiosity. Unfortunately for Broner, he was outmatched. He got hurt a couple times and was extremely tentative to let his hands go. After 12 rounds, Pacquiao was awarded the unanimous decision victory, and Broner once again had another, for better or worse, iconic career moment, claiming he beat Pacquiao in a high-tempered and brief rant. Nearly a year later, Broner was ordered to pay $830,000 for supposedly sexually assaulting a woman in a Cleveland nightclub back in 2018. Nearly 2 years later, Broner was temporarily jailed for a parole violation after failing to enroll in an alcohol treatment program. Broner's last bout was 15 months ago, against a virtually unknown man named Giovanni Santiago. Broner won a highly controversial unanimous decision against a man he was supposed to beat very easily. Adrien Broner will always be a truly polarizing figure in the sport of boxing, and a fighter who did accomplish many things, but could have accomplished much more.